Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt
And
Rose,
I'm Jessica Bun.
and this is our reaction and review for the Survivor 48 finale. We have made it to the end of this season, and I know for some people out there, there's probably just rejoicing in that alone because
Mhm.
this has not been the greatest season of Survivor known to mankind.
No, it has been quite a dull ride since the merge. Taking Kyle's move out of all of this, it has been very predictable. Even in this episode, it was like, oh, you can have this last advantage. I'm like, well, he was gonna get it, and she did.
I will say, yeah, this finale starts off being pretty predictable in a lot of different ways, kind of a nice reflection of the rest of the season, but we do sort of build up here to an interesting end game, something that's a little bit different than what we typically see because as a lot of you know who are big Survivor fans, and we'll get to this more later on in the video, there's usually a finalist who doesn't get any votes at all, and I feel like we have a really, really interesting final three. Now, does this take away from how we got there? No, it does not, but it's a fascinating way to end this season. And of course, there's a lot that we have to go through every which way coming up to that moment.
Absolutely.
Well, before we do dive into everything with the Survivor 48 finale, be sure to hit that subscribe button because, yeah, I know we're all sad Survivor is over for the season, but obviously there's more of this show coming leading up to the big season 50 that's so big
Mhm.
everybody forgets that season 49 is even existing. But
Oh.
beyond just that, Big Brother is coming back this summer. They've
Mhm.
already announced a premiere date in July. We are looking forward to diving back into that pool as well.
Yeah, we will be here with live feed updates for all you Big Brother fans out there this
Mhm.
summer. So hit that subscribe button. It really helps us here at the channel. We are also covering Murderbot and Criminal Minds over on our Patreon. It's another great way to be able to catch those reviews. It's the only place you can get them, but to also support what Matt and I are doing here with Survivor, Big Brother, all these other great shows. And thank you to everyone who is supporting us.
Thank you guys so much. We really, really do appreciate that.
Okay, so before we get into the big winner this season, let's sort of set the table of how we got here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the final five. We are here. As you said earlier, we have an opportunity for somebody to earn an advantage in the immunity challenge. And yeah, nobody is surprised whatsoever that even I know that there have been plenty of tinfoil hat moments with Eva this season of Survivor, but even the ones where you sit there and it's like, objectively, this is random. Objectively, this is something that anyone could win. Magically, the ball just kind of bounces her way.
Yeah, kinda every time this season. Like,
Yeah.
she has had a pile of advantages, as well as the idol that everybody's known about, that she didn't really need to play, but it was the final time she could play. Just like,
Yeah.
here's my idol, whatever, I don't
Yeah.
need it. And then I know it, but who cares? At that point, if it was me, I would have just taken it home.
Have a souvenir for when this is
Yeah,
all over. No,
exactly. Nobody's voting her out.
it's really funny though that this is not the first time that we've seen a situation like this where somebody gets an advantage in an immunity challenge or the final immunity challenge, and then at the end of the day, it doesn't actually end up helping all that much. I just wish there was a way to properly get into the brains of what happens to these people when they get to the puzzle component. And I'm not sitting here being like, I'm a great puzzle mastermind or anything like that, but if I knew I was going on Survivor, I would like train my brain like nobody's business because let's be honest, I'm not winning any other part of an immunity challenge. I am stuck in the mud with Camilla, like rolling
Oh my.
around and all that netting, and I'm still there at this point.
I mean, with puzzles, it's difficult. I mean, these are much bigger puzzles, but I mean, even over on Big Brother, we saw Caitlyn like completely pooch up a puzzle that was like 6 or 7 pieces, right? Like you get into that moment and you know how much is on the line and you just can't make your brain work. Like panic just sets in.
Yeah, I think the one relatable thing I can explain to all of this is many, many, many years ago, I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, not the Regis version, the Meredith Vieira version, the syndicated one. And I had made it to what's like the $4,000 question, the $8,000 question. And I mean, I end up leaving the show with 16, but really, once I got to a certain threshold, everything I knew I forgot. And it's just like I was a college student at the time I was on this show, so every dollar was like the most money I had ever seen in my entire life. And once you're getting to those stakes, you freeze up. Your brain doesn't function anymore. Like there was a question about visual impairment that I used a lifeline on, and I am legally blind, and I am totally blind in my right eye. And it's just like, if I can't remember that when I have eaten, when I have slept, I can't imagine what it's like having to look at a puzzle and be like, what am I to do with that after spending weeks in the jungle with not a lot of food?
And my girl Camilla won that whole immunity. I was so excited for her. I mean, you could see it on her face
Yeah.
that she was excited about this too. I mean, she could have been the person going at that point. I don't think so. It did feel like no matter what happened, unless, Mitch won this immunity, he was going home. Like everyone was like, "Oh, we don't want to sit at the end with you. You're too nice. You have this great story. Everybody's going to give you the money." And I was in Mitch's camp where he was just kind of like, "What are you talking about? I'm never going to win this show." And I was just like, "Mitch, absolutely. You're never going to win this show. No one's going to give you the money with the game that you played. If it was who has the best story, I still don't know if you have won it." I mean, there's a lot of really deep stories this season with Joe, with Eva, with Kyle. Like, there's a lot of people that have the deep stories. Mitch wasn't winning this, and I completely agree with him when he was just like, "What are you guys doing? What are you talking about?"
Okay, I've got to put on a beef hat for a couple of different instances here.
All
Okay,
right.
number one, I'm not going to beef with Jeff this time. I'm actually going to beef
Oh.
with CVS. I'm
Oh.
looking at the network. You
Even
guys,
bigger.
they released this synopsis for this finale, and in this synopsis, they mentioned a big come from behind win in an immunity challenge. You guys directly spoiled for me that Camilla was going to win this the moment that she fell really far behind
Yeah.
in that net. And I was just like, okay, guys, way to completely sap whatever sort of drama there could have been. And this is not even one of those instances where you have to be some eagle-eyed fan to figure this out. It's like, okay, you guys literally said this in the synopsis. So you might as well have said, at the final five, Camilla wins immunity, because I don't think anybody was going to be thinking that Camilla was going to athletically get far ahead of everybody. Of course, it was going to be come from behind. But the beef hat, we're not done. It's staying on
Oh.
to talk about Big Move Mitch for
Big
a
Move
moment.
Mitch.
Okay, Mitch, as a person, I like you. You seem very, very nice. I would
Yes.
love to go and have a drink with you, do a hangout. But in the game, I am so frustrated with you for so many different reasons. For starters, you saying, I'm going to make a move for about 5 weeks, and your move is basically telling Kyle that's like, okay, we need to go after Joe now. That's not really a move. That's just you having a conversation with somebody. But then also, you are told your fate going into tribal council. You know that people want you out of the game for reasons, just like you said, for reasons that remain unclear, unless there is so much incredible stuff that was left on the cutting room floor where everybody was running around at camp being like, Mitch is the biggest threat to win this show. Like, I don't know what's going on there.
I didn't understand what was going on. It just felt like at that point, everyone wanted to find a way to keep everybody's votes. Like,
Yeah.
I do not understand, because then you're left with these two duos, one that's secret,
Yeah.
one that's out in the open. And at that point, it's kind of like, everybody there is playing the game hard and has moves that they can claim. But Mitch doesn't have any moves that he can claim. He can just be like, "I'm a nice guy and everybody really likes me, and that's where I am with it." Nobody's voting for that.
No.
I do not understand why Camilla and Kyle were kind of like, "Yeah, this is the way to go," when you've got one idol still in play with Eva. She can't save her and Joe, so just make the move. Make the move. Why wouldn't you make the move?
Yeah, that's the part of it I don't understand at all. Like, if you're Kyle and Camilla, I mean, maybe you're worried that, okay, you tell Mitch that, okay, we're going to vote for Joe, and then maybe he's going to go and tell Joe, and Eva's going to play the idol on him. Like, maybe that's possible, but that's a really extreme example. And if you're Mitch in that position, if it's like, I either go along with this move or I get voted off,
Right.
I'm not going to tattle on this. I'm not going to go and try to risk that, especially when I know that Joe and Eva are the biggest threats on paper to win, because, you know, Mitch is not going to be privy to everything Kyle has done in the game at this given point in time. And so I'm a little frustrated by Kyle and Camilla here, but more than anybody, I am unbelievably frustrated with Mitch, because it just felt like Mitch rolled over and died at this point in the game, and that he was happy with his journey, that he made it very, very far, and, you know, he got to live out his dream, which I'm not taking that away from you, Mitch. Like, honestly, I'm not. But it's everybody's dream to go on Survivor who was there. That's why I get a little bit irritated whenever people talk incessantly and the show puts it on the air of people talking about, it's my dream. It's like, of course, that's like a given.
That's why you're there.
Yeah, you're not going on Survivor unless you want to be on Survivor. So I just wanted to see him fight. I wanted to see him try something. It doesn't make you less of a person or a player to at least throw something against the wall to tell me that you want to win the game. I want players who want to win.
Yeah, I didn't feel that great that he was just like, oh, well, at least they just came up and were honest with me. It's kind of like, well, you didn't have any argument. You're like, oh, well, okay, I guess it's my time. No, man, you're on Survivor. This is a show where you fight to have your spot.
Yeah.
And you could have had so many arguments, especially because we have Eva. Yeah, she has her idol, but one of them is not protected. One of them is not protected. Just find a way to get one of them out and you have a better chance. Like, this was one of the biggest times that I was really frustrated with Team Guyana on this one. They really made a mistake with that. And even later, I understand why Camilla was kind of like, Kyle, I can't sit against you in the end. Like, I'm just not going to win. But at the same, we're probably going to split our votes. But Kyle's not in that same spot. Kyle has this big move that he would have been able to beat Camilla with over other people, like at this point in the game. That's just like, he really had the big move that we'll talk about later when we're getting into, you know, tribal and all of that, when he was able to claim that move. It's the biggest move in the game. Like, he could have played that against Camilla and won. It was more that Camilla thought she couldn't beat Kyle, but she was going to have an impossible time beating Eva and Joe. Like, Kyle was her best bet.
There's a lot of questionable decisions that go down here across the finish line. And I think just the biggest one is these duos not wanting to use Mitch, because it's clearly he could join one of the duos and then they have a 3-person majority. And then they have a lot of control in the game moving forward the rest of the way. And he's right there. And this is a message for Mitch, and this is a message for all sorts of former Survivor players. I'm not going to sit here and be like, there are no moral victories in Survivor, because here's a good example of a moral victory. If you know that you're going to be a GOAT at the final tribal council and you're not going to win regardless, finding a way to get there and get that little bit of extra money that comes with that is a moral victory in Survivor. What Mitch did, that's not a moral victory. You did not make it to the final 3.
No, if I was Mitch, I just would have played it that way, to be like, you can beat me. You think my story is powerful? Let's look at Eva's story. You think that you can beat that story? You can't beat that story, but you can beat my story because I haven't done anything in this game. Eva has won a pile of advantages with her idol. Like, she's been part of this really important alliance. She's done very well throughout this game. I have done nothing. I've been on the wrong side of the vote a bunch of times. Take me to the end. You can beat me. That is the game move at that point.
Yeah, and I understand Mitch being in the final tribal, probably not as interesting as the final 3 that we got, but it's just like, if you're playing the game, why do you care what's the most interesting final tribal council? And if you're Mitch, why do you care about anything? You get, I don't know how much more money they get for final 3 these days, but you're getting more money. You got to think about yourself first.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this Team Guyana conversation where Camilla's like, hey, listen, sorry, but, you know, if I win, I'm putting you in fire because I need you out.
Yeah.
I truly didn't understand it. Like looking at the three that were left, Kyle probably was her best bet at beating somebody. Like I think Eva was going to be really hard to beat, especially with the way that she controlled that final three tribal council with everything that she was saying, and Joe was really quiet. I just feel like she had a decent enough chance, but at the very least, it would have gotten her to that final three. The minute that she was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to go against each other," Kyle just went to his other alliances, like, "Yeah, we in it now. It's us together." I was just like, "Cool, Camilla, you just burned yourself for nothing."
I like I said last week that I think there's a good chance they would need to turn on each other, but I think the reality of it is if you're Camilla, you can't have this conversation with him in advance. If you're going to do this, you just need to do it. You just need to
Yeah,
take him out, and then you can claim that at the end of the game,
right.
and then you're not giving him a chance to try to go back and talk to other people, and then you also get ownership of all the other moves that he did over the course of the game. And because the two of you were so close, Kyle does not strike me as a bitter person at all.
No.
Like, I think he totally would have respected you. I think he would have given you a vote, and I think he would have
Yeah.
fought for you
Yeah.
at the jury. So it's just like I really think Camilla is an excellent player. Like how she was
Yes.
able to work secretly with Kyle, be outside of the main alliance, and get that far in the game. It's amazing, but I think her game ultimately, it's a prime example of just sometimes one mistake at the wrong time can really, really end up hurting you.
Absolutely. So we end up seeing that Kyle is the person who has that final immunity, and he's able to pick who's going to fire.
Yeah.
So we've got Camilla going to fire, and we've got Eva going to fire, and him being like, "Joe, man, it's you and me." I'm just kind of like, none of this makes sense. Joe and Eva have said openly over and over again all season, including this episode, that they are taking each other. Like, it's just kind of like, I don't understand where we are with this with Kyle. Like, I feel like he just kind of got backed into a corner with Camilla instead of trying to turn it around with Camilla, who he would have had a good chance of beating, to just be like, "Listen, let's just go up against each other and see what happens. It's you and me. Let's have both of us in this finale together."
I okay,
He's a
Kyle.
lawyer it up, Kyle.
He needed some more of his lawyerly skills. And this is where I'm going to give Joe a little bit of credit here because I think this is the most impressive part of Joe's game, even more so than the fact that he won so many immunities, is
Yeah.
that I don't know what it is with him. I mean, this is honestly why I've liked Joe from the start, so maybe this is a part of it. He just has this ability to really make people want to be buds with him out there and really want to support him and be a friend to him. And that's
He's
why
the camp daddy.
being the camp daddy is very effective. And it's also just this idea of you're willingly taking somebody to the final three who has not only won a lot of challenges, but really controlled a big percentage of the game. But then beyond all of that, I don't know how many people in modern Survivor vote on the basis of, whether or not somebody quote unquote needs the money anymore. And I don't know Joe's full situation, but this is a guy who has kids, who has a pretty blue collar job as a fire captain, and he's there, with a lawyer, and as it turns out, a researcher who's got X, Y, and Z credentials and all of that. It would be very easy for him to be like, I'm somebody who can make the most out of this money, that it's going to radically change my life. And he could have that argument. And for Kyle to then just be like, all right, bud, we're doing it, bro. We're going to go to the five. I'm just like, Kyle, why are you doing this? At least, yeah, Joe's probably, he's a literal fire captain. He's probably going to win the fire making challenge anyway, but you should at least try.
Yeah, everything with Joe in this episode was so funny. Like
Yeah.
watching Eva come out with what her background is and Kyle being like, "Yeah, me too." Joe's look on his face is just like, "Oh my God." I can't believe this is happening. He's just like, I'm just me.
Joe learned that people can lie in Survivor in real time over the course of this finale. And
He's so cute.
listen, Joe, it's okay. It's okay. People do whatever they need to do in order to get to the end of the game. You managed to do it without a ton of lying, good
Yep.
for you. But
Yes.
I wouldn't have faulted Camilla. She lied her whole way to the end and ended up winning the game.
I will say this about Camilla. I love that at the beginning of this episode, she was just like, I have lied throughout this game, and if I make it to the end, I'm going to own all of it. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I hope you win. I hope you get to the end and you just own it all and watch everybody's faces.
Okay, I don't this isn't a tinfoil hat. This is just a take. And I feel like I want Camilla to play again, and I think the biggest reason I want Camilla to play again is I feel like if you simulate a Survivor season with her 100 times, and I know I've used this kind of analogy before, I think this is the worst entertaining outcome for her. And she was still entertaining, but what I mean is she was surrounded by a bunch of people who didn't want to play shady, who didn't want to do all these crazy things. And can you just imagine Camilla, who really gets to let loose on a season full of really crazy gamers and strategists? I just think she would be totally at home, and she was just really inhibited this season by the people who were around her.
Okay, let's talk about this fire challenge with
Yeah.
Camilla. Eva, what? No advantage for Eva? No,
No.
secret advantage where she goes through all of her Tinder and there's like an advantage in here that she gets to start with like an actual fire?
It's a spark plug that's hidden underneath all of that. She just gets to press the button.
No, seriously though, it was really difficult to hear her having an episode in the jungle. I mean, it was difficult on Kyle. We even saw him kind of be like, you know what? I'm just going to probably throw myself into fire. We see him in the corner, like trying to practice to make sure that he's able to do it. Joe goes over. He's like, I'm going to take your spot as well. Like, you don't need to go through this. And I was so thankful for Eva to be like, no, guys, no way. This is not how I'm going to win Survivor. I am going to do this fire challenge. I'm going to get through it. This is not a thing where you guys need to come in and take it from me. I just need a little bit of support right now, And he gave her a hug and she was able to get through it, give her a little bit of tips. And of course, she won.
Yeah, surprise, surprise, everybody. Eva ends up winning this. Camilla ends up going at this point. I still love Camilla. I'm glad she had the journey that she did. I'm very glad that she not only obviously votes for Kyle at the end, but she puts the Guyana flag on the vote. I was just like, okay, Jess gonna be pretty happy with that one.
I was very happy. You guys know I've been Team Guyana this whole time.
Yeah.
And, getting to this final tribal, I mean, after hearing everyone's arguments, of course, we're going to get in the winner of everything. But like, after hearing the way everyone's arguments, Joe wasn't really talking that much. He was kind of just letting his game stand for himself. That's fine. Eva felt like she was like over talking everybody. Like they asked everyone the question, what did you do that we didn't know about? Oh, I had this advantage and I didn't tell anybody about it. And I didn't have to use it, but I had it. And, this was kind of my sneaky move that was mine. And then Kyle's starting to get into, this is what happened in my past. It, brought me here to be able to then be a lawyer. And this is what I'm doing. And all of a sudden he was like, me too. I did this and that, whatever. I was just like, oh my goodness, this is, it's hard for Kyle to be able to kind of say what he needs to say to win the game. But once Camilla gave him the platform where Eva was trying to take credit for that Shaheen move, and I get why she was doing that. She didn't know what actually happened. She felt she had a part in that move. She just didn't know, right? So why not take the credit for that move? Joe's not taking it. She doesn't think Kyle did anything. It's the right thing for her to do. But the minute that Kyle was able to be like, no, it was actually me working with Camilla. We made you guys eat one of your own. That was my entire move. Seeing all the jury's faces, my face would have been like that too. And I would have written down Kyle's name, not because we're both Guyanese, because that was the move.
Okay. I'm going to try to take everybody on a little bit of an emotional journey here, and I'll speak in a couple of platitudes, because first and foremost, Team Guyana to me is probably my favorite two-person alliance on this show since maybe JT and Steven, and then you're going back a really long way just when it comes to like the way they were able to play in these moves, pull them off. But then I just want to talk specifically here about Kyle versus Joe, because I feel like after a final tribal council, I tend to have a good idea as to who I would vote for if I was on the jury. And this is the hardest decision I would have personally had to make since maybe Dominic and Wendell, which everybody knows that came down to the wire so many years ago. But it's
Mhm.
not because, like, there have been plenty of seasons where I've thought the wrong person has won, but this was unbelievably difficult. And I'm not trying to fault Eva or saying Eva's a bad player, because I don't think so at all. I think
No.
this is a really good final three
Mhm.
of three people who all contributed a lot. The case for Joe in my head is obviously he won all those challenges. He was a very,
Mhm.
very good social player. He was able to get all these
Very good.
people on his side. And I think that part of his game is really, really underrated. Yes, strategy wise, he was not perfect, but I also feel like Kyle also had a really big shield in him for a big part of his game. And yeah, I think that's some of Kyle's strategy, but I
Mhm.
also think it made Kyle's game a little bit easier for him. So it's like that's where I would put Joe up a peg and take Kyle down a peg. But then we get back to everything you said when it comes to Camilla giving him a platform. The one mistake I think Kyle makes here is, yeah, he talks a lot about the Shaheen vote.
Mhm.
Maybe they did talk about it and it was cut, but I think he should have talked about the Thomas vote as well and what he pulled off, because there's two very clear instances in this game of Kyle making a move that Joe was not privy to, that Eva was not privy to. And for me as a juror, I want to reward the person who really knows what's going on the majority of the time and was able to carry through their plans and had their own sort of sovereignty.
Mhm.
I would vote for Kyle. It would be very, very close. It would be really, really tough for me. I would probably go up to the voting booth and be like, I would write down two names and cross them out, but I would vote for Kyle in the end.
Yeah, I would vote for Kyle easily. I mean, I really like Joe. I like Eva. I think they all played a very good game. They
Yeah,
all deserve to be there. I wasn't going to be mad about any of the outcomes if any of them won. But of course, I really wanted Kyle or Camilla to
yeah.
win. But at this point, where we are with the final three, it for me had to be Kyle. But before we get to the winner, we have to give a little bit of
Yeah.
to David.
Oh, okay.
That was so funny. Listen, he's been such a like grouch sitting
Yeah.
over there, acting this whole time his butt off and being like grumpy David, upset David to do this knock knock joke to be like, "And I'm just kidding." I was like, a sitcom David's the back.
We had quite an evolution. We had sitcom Dave, then we had toolbox Dave, then we
Yes.
had meme Dave, or him standing up,
Yes.
and that has been memed all across the internet at this point. And
Yes.
now sitcom Dave once more is his final form here. Okay, before we get to the results, the one last thing I would say here, and the jury is not privy to this information, obviously, but the other big knock for me against Eva, especially after watching this finale,
Mhm.
is that at the very least, Joe seemed to be suspicious of the idea that Kyle and Camilla pulled one over on him. And I kind of wonder, if he was with a different ally, if he would have done the move with Shaheen. Eva was completely snowed over. Like, Eva was so gullible in that moment, and it didn't seem like that came through at the final tribal as much, but I do think that hurts her a little bit.
I think it does, even though everyone is aware of what is going on, and that part of it is that she trusts that what people are telling her are the truth.
Yeah.
And it is what it is with this game. You know, people are going to lie. It's a very difficult game to be in where you have to trust that people are telling you the truth.
Yeah.
And most times people aren't. She got very lucky that Joe was in this game and that he was as honest as he was with her.
Okay, it is time for the big winner reveal. Drum roll, please, as though you haven't already watched the finale.
Who is the winner of season 48 of Survivor? It's Kyle. It is Team Guyana. Kyle won this game. You guys know that I've been rooting for Team Guyana throughout this whole process
Yeah.
because I am also Guyanese. I just felt a connection with them. But I mean, Kyle played such a good game. He was able to really ride the fence in this big major alliance as well as a secret alliance with Camilla, and actually kind of get no blood on his hands through this, but secretly and quietly. Like, it was amazing how he played both sides like this.
I hope that in the years to come, people respect Kyle's game as much as it deserves to be respected. Like, obviously, I'm very, very happy for you. I'm not even upset that Joe lost because I love Joe, but
Yes.
as a not a real juror in Survivor, but as someone who likes to picture myself as a juror on Survivor, I try to take my favoritism out the door here, and I would have
Mhm.
voted for Kyle for all the reasons that I said. I just think strategically he was great, and I'm not a game bot. I'm not just all about strategy all the time, but he was able to make good strategic moves while at the same time not being malicious, not making
Yeah.
people mad at him, never making it personal, and then be able to then articulate some things after the fact and still be very charismatic and likable, and to kind of, I don't want to say quote Robert Frost, but to try to reference Robert Frost, he took a road not traveled much to get to this finale. Like, he took a lot of risks. He made some moves that I don't think were really that good to his game. I mean, including not wanting to get rid of Joe, somebody who was an enormous threat to him on a number of occasions, but he wanted to hold on to that loyalty, and it was a risk. But, if it pays off, like, who am I to say you're wrong, Kyle?
Yeah, it was a risk that, was he going to be able to beat Joe? But if was the person who ended up having Joe on the jury, he wouldn't have had that vote. Joe may have very much been like, I'm not okay with this. Like, we were brothers, we were loyal. How could you do this to me? I feel like Joe wouldn't have given that vote. And
Yeah.
this was the way to maybe secure a different vote. And I just really think that his speech at the end, where he got very lucky that Eva was trying to take credit for a move that he made,
Yeah.
and that Camilla really had his back and was like on jury being like, I got you, don't worry, I
Yeah.
got you, and set the table for him to be able to win the match. And I think not only did that really help,
Yeah.
but I think it also really helped giving his background of, I was here, I did these things that landed me in all this trouble, but I turned it around and I got here. And, like, I'm very happy with the turn of events. I saw it on everybody's faces as he was telling that story of how it connected in a way that it may not have connected if he just kept it to himself. I
Yeah.
think he played a wonderful game. I was so excited to see him win,
Yeah.
and I cannot wait to see him again on this show.
Everybody just loves a good underdog story, right? And we're talking about an underdog in life for all the reasons that you mentioned. Somebody who completely screwed up the start of this season, and as he even pointed out, lose to a guy with a busted shoulder.
Yeah.
Almost was in big trouble at one point, managed to pull off that idol play. He just really great journey. I like Kyle a lot. I'm very, very happy for him. So congratulations, Kyle. All right. Well, that's it, guys. We've made it to the end of Survivor 48. Like, what a crazy journey it's been on. It has been frustrating at times. We did have some good moments. We have some players we obviously want to see come back for another season. At this point, Say is number one.
Say all day.
I think Camilla might actually be number two for me, just because I feel like she would really mix it up on another season if she comes back.
Camilla's number one for me. I love to say, but I would love to see Camilla back. If she was with more players that are willing to kind of play like her and be more strategic, I just think would be such a fun season.
Everybody's gonna hate me for saying this.
Oh, if you say David, just see yourself out.
Heroes versus villains. David's gonna be on the villain tribe, and he's gonna have a moral conflict the entire season because he's gonna be like, I'm a hero. What's going on? What's going on? Why am I here? Listen, just do that for the lulz, just for me. Okay, but no, that's where we are coming out of this season. Hopefully, Probst, you better have some big things in store for next season. Mix it up, do some new twists. Don't just repeat yourself. But thank you guys so much for being a part of this Survivor journey with us this season. We, of course, appreciate that greatly. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our Big Brother coverage. And if you do want to support us further, be sure to join our Patreon. We have a link in the description below. We're covering exclusively there Criminal Minds Evolution on Paramount Plus and also Murderbot. Thank you so much. We will see you here next time.